We do have from WoW Dubbers. Do you think Arthas is coming back in Shadowlands, eh? Yeah, so do you think Arthas is coming back? I've lost it. I've lost the question. Yes. Do you think Arthas is coming back in Shadowlands? If so, how bad will they butcher the experience of seeing that character again?
Well, that's certainly an opinion going in.
Little bit of a leading question there, but I can see why that would be a leading question.
Absolutely.
Blizzard actually knows this too, because anytime somebody's asked them about Arthas, they've been like, no comment, and we also know we can't mess that one up.
Yeah.
They get it, that if you mess up Arthas, then oh dear.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people would have opinions about the changing of Arthas's agency with the helm and stuff like that as time has went on.
Including us.
So, right. Question 1. Will Arthas return?
Yes. Unequivocally. But I guess the real question is, what form does he return in? Does he return as, child Arthas in this touching scene with Uther being repented? Does he return as, a full agent, capable completely of his own agency? Does he just show up after being dropped in the maw? Do we save him and he's like, I am Paladin Arthas back? I can't believe what you made me do. Or does he show up as this kind of real torn wreck of a person? It's because we don't really know what state he is actually in the Shadowlands. Obviously we know he's there. They wouldn't pick him up and drop him into the maw and not have us see him again. So there's so many possibility, and there's so many of them that can feel awful but maybe be executed okay, that, the answer, we'll see him, of course.
Yeah. Ner'zhul.
Yeah.
They confirmed in our interview that Ner'zhul's returning in the next patch.
Yeah.
Now, if Ner'zhul is in play, I'd say that adds credence to the idea of Arthas being in play, because there's hints that Ner'zhul was working on his own plans and was being a bit of a devious rascal, and that Arthas pretty much came in, ruined all of his plans, and then got just sort of jailered anyway.
Yeah.
So there's going to be stuff there. I think that the most that we know about Arthas is that he woke up from a long and horrible nightmare.
Yes.
And then he was picked up by Uther and Devos and dropped into the maw.
What a lovely experience.
So he was sad after waking up from a nightmare, and then got dropped into the crash for naughty people.
Yeah.
And we have no idea since, or what's going on since. Arthas is... There's many people who should be pissed off at the jailer.
Yes.
Arthas definitely is one of them.
Of course, yeah.
The jailer orchestrated a plan to co-opt Arthas's dedication to his people, and twist that dark, and then try to use Arthas to prepare the world for consumption by him once he could make himself be free. That was the plan. It was for the Lich King. This has been confirmed to me by Blizzard in our public interview. There's a little bit of free will from Ner'zhul. Jailer's pissed off with that. There's a bit of free will with Arthas. Jailer's pissed off with that. That's why he just MC'd Arthas, or MC'd Anduin. Yeah. But that means that Arthas is bound to be pissed off at the jailer.
Yeah, that's a really fun way to think about it. That it's he took everything and turned it dark, because obviously everything that they did with how the Lich King was set up, all of Tyrannus' dialogue. Everyone knows the day you were born, the very forest whispered the name Arthas. All of the "you'll be a great king someday," all of that stuff from that cinematic that really resonated with everyone is basically if Arthas was, to use numerical terms, if Arthas was projected to be a very, very big number in terms of influence, it's just that there was a big minus put in front of that by all of what the jailer and Ner'zhul did. So there's this absolute massive chasm between who he could have been and who he ended up being. So I feel like there's going to be a big move to try and, especially considering all of the similarities between him and Anduin. I think the general flow will be Arthas will in some capacity enable Anduin to be who Arthas could have been.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a big sort of through line for Arthas's vague redemption of sorts. I think that's
it's really tricky, because to me, that actually sounds like that would be a really good payoff.
Yeah.
And it would be authentic to Arthas's intent and a whole bunch of his character.
Yeah,
now that said, it is basically, from what I understand, Arthas had little nudges in the wrong direction when he was the wielder of Frostmourne, and that, you know, we do literally know Frostmourne's first victim was him.
Yeah.
From what I understand, the mind control really happened with the Helm.
Yeah.
Or not the mind control, but, you know, the Jailer's big dominating influence was the Helm. So the Arthas that killed his dad, did all those terrible things. There's a lot of Arthas still doing that.
Yeah.
That is canon. From what that is the close. I can't definitively say that's canon because Blizzard haven't definitively said, but based on Steve Denuzer's responses to me, that is my read of the situation. So, you know, I don't want this redemption because he is Arthas Menethil is a kinslayer.
Yeah.
You know, even though the culling of Stratholme was the right thing to do in a way, Arthas, you know, if something really rough like that has got to be done by a character who you're supposed to like, that character has got to be shown to be torn up by that.
Yeah.
You know, it's like even, say, Battlestar Galactica, you know, near the pilot, where, you know, Saul has got to... There's going to be an explosive decompression that will hit the fuel lines, the ship will be lost, everyone will die. So what you know, the thing that has to be done is that fire needs to be put out. You can only put that fire out by venting the ship. Venting that part of the ship and hoping that the people in the ship had their protective gear on so they could survive being in the, you know, cold dark of space. Now, that worked, and he gets to be a redeemable character because it's one of the many reasons why he's a alcoholic. And, you know, he knows it's the thing that has to be done, but it causes him so much pain, and you see other characters, you know, under him chew him out for it, and it just really works. Whereas, you know, with Arthas, it's like, he was pretty quick to cull that city. So I don't think Arthas deserves a redemption. We're like, Arthas, you know, I just trundled down the wrong path, and then a big, weird space dude in bizarre S&M gear with his oddly defined nips out took him down the wrong direction. Per kid. Can't be that.
No, it can't be. It can't
But
be.
Arthas can have a Darth Vader moment.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that's the way to think about this. Darth Vader got a bit of a redemption, but not in a way that absolves him of the awful things that he did.
Yeah. It was kind of like he turned the right direction at the last moment, and that was it.
Yeah. Yeah. At the final moment where he could make the right choice, he was able to. Yeah. That is a redeeming factor, but it is not redemption. Yeah. That's what should happen with Arthas. And I feel like if Arthas can do something that is for the good of Anduin and for the bad of the Jailer, where he can acknowledge that he made a bunch of awful decisions that then led to him being a pawn of a terrible evil, that really shows his agency in that, which his agency was there, then they can bring him back and they can do it well. But I think even if they do it well, a bunch of players will be angry because they don't understand the story. And I'm not saying that in a way that is being aggro towards players.
Yes.
I am saying that in a way where keeping up to date with the specifics of WoW lore and the details that make the difference is a quest in and of itself. So most players only get the highlight reel of the big cinematics and big moments. Whereas if you look at the burning of Teldrassil, as portrayed in game, you don't understand the lore. Simple as that. If you played through the Burning of Teldrassil and the War of Thorns campaign in World of Warcraft, the video game.exe, you do not understand the lore. And it's not your fault. You know, the book's lying around here somewhere, but you need to read A Good War and the other novella. I mean, I actually really enjoyed that. I thought they were a good read. I was reading them in the coffee shop doing a Sylvanas lore series like 2 years ago. Maybe it was less. But it's just that thing where those events basically play out a little bit differently, and differently in an important way in the novelization of those events. Such that if you've only seen what's going on in game, you will not understand Sylvanas, you will be confused, and more of her actions will seem like they come out of left field and make no sense. And that's not your fault because you just played the game. You know, it's Blizzard's fault for taking the details that matter and putting them elsewhere and barely telling you how to find it.
Transmedia narratives. Ooh.
Yeah. I mean, hey, it keeps us in a job. We get to explain all this stuff.
Yep.
But I think that's why, even if Blizzard do it well, they're going to have a really hard time selling it to players, because a lot of players are not fully abreast of the Jailer and Sylvanas. You know, they've only seen him as the big, weird, spooky man they saw at the start, and then the person they've seen in some cinematics, but they've never played with, they never journeyed with, they never experienced.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a real tough sell with Arthas. I think they can do it in a way where I will personally like it, and will understand it, and will think it's authentic to all characters involved. And I think that I will think that. I think there's a good chance Pyro will think about it. Taliesin will probably, you know... I think they can basically bring back Arthas in a way where all of us people who make lore videos and talk about that aspect of the game, that we will really like it. But I think they will struggle selling that to a bunch of the players who, you know, don't look into the details of the lore because they're making lore videos because they're really interested in it.
Yeah.
So, tricky.
Yeah, it's like they absolutely haven't needled the thread, and it's like, I guess it's almost analogous to like the multiple ways they could design and direct the game by itself. It's just they haven't needled the thread, but it's between all of these extremely different like opinions and views and knowledge levels. It's going to be very, very difficult, because I mean, if they redeem Arthas, everyone's angry. If they don't redeem him at all, everyone's angry. It is a very, very, very... I can see why they're being super careful. I can see why they're trying to hold off on all possible detail till the last second.
Yeah. I mean, one way you could do it, like Devos, you know, the Forsworn. It's hard to tell with the timelines, but like, what if Devos was working for the Jailer whenever she dropped Arthas down there?
Yeah.
And because the Machinery of Death wasn't broken at that point, you know? Arthas didn't get to face the Arbiter's judgment.
Yeah.
That's really, really important. So we actually don't know where the essence of Arthas' soul should have went.
Yeah.
Very much, maybe it should have went to the Maw. But maybe it actually should have just went to Revendreth. Because, I mean, some of the NPCs you see in Revendreth, you hear about their crimes. Some of them are a bit Arthas-y, you know? There's kinslaying, there's stuff like that. So, you know, he was dropped in there. Does that mean that, like, the Jailer is going to take perverse pleasure in turning Arthas into a super weapon? Do we get patch 9.3? In case of emergency, break glass, Arthas is back.
I think if they brought Arthas back in any capacity as the Lich King, it would need to be for a very, very brief moment, and for a really cool thing that's paid off instantly, as opposed to, you know, a looming villain on the precipice. They'll probably have to do a very smart Illidan with him.
Yeah.
Which is dangle him like a thread, and then once we bite, go, haha, perfect.
They certainly have a financial incentive to do so.
Yes.
It worked for Illidan. It totally worked for us.
Yes, absolutely. Although I did have one thought when you were saying about timelines and Devos, that Arthas skipping the Arbiter's judgment. Maybe that was because the Jailer didn't want the Arbiter to see what he had done.
Wait, the Jailer...
The Jailer intentionally is corrupting the process of taking people into the Maw via the Forsworn, specifically so the Arbiter doesn't know what he's doing.
Whoa! Oh, that's such a big think.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't really have any super consequences, but the idea that the Jailer
operating under their noses.
The idea is the Jailer's dancing around the Arbiter, and God knows how long he's been doing that.
Long.
Yeah.
Long if Denathrius' spies have been working for millennia.
Yeah.
That's big. That was a big think. I like that think. Very nice.
That's two this week. Two big
yeah,
things.
I think that's the return of Arthas.